I just want to remind any of you that we've got a workshop this Saturday afternoon in London, which will take you through everything you need to get through a month of drinking. So if you're planning to do Sober October, Saturday is the 30th and October starts on the Sunday. It will also give you free access to our online course. So there'll be a daily email to get you through the whole of October. So it's a really good deal. Check it out. And also to remind you that next week, Harriet is doing the webinar. Harriet's doing that webinar at 5:30 though. So it's an earlier time because she's got childcare commitments. But I'm grateful that she's doing it because I have my family festival that I organise next week. And just to remind you that if you find the webinar useful, you can be part of our Pay What You Want scheme, either by paying on a regular basis or just paying for this one webinar if you found it useful. So those are all my public service announcements, I think. So I will start the webinar because there are 13 of you here. There's going to be lots of slides to this one because I've written down every myth that there is about alcohol that we need to dispel. And it's really funny because I asked you all for a list and you gave it to me. And then I sat and just started to write all of the different myths down and I got to a list of about 40. So I've whittled it down a bit and tried to put some things together so that we can cover what they are. And I'm just going to check there are no questions. Everyone's got sound. Hi, everybody. Right, okay. So let's start with the first myth. I think I actually have to get through like a myth a minute, but I don't think that's going to work. Everyone drinks is a really good myth that we hear all the time. And yes, it would be really, it's an obvious societal myth. And part of what I'm going to be doing today is talking about the fact that as a whole society, we have lots of myths that justify our drinking. And then we have those that we tell ourselves to add that extra layer on top to justify that we're drinking more than everyone else. But don't underestimate that as a society, we're a very alcocentric society. We've got a long and distinguished history with alcohol and, you know, that goes back a very long way. And so it's actually in every fibre of our social being. So it is really easy to believe that everybody drinks, right? Because there are adverts everywhere. You can't go very far without bumping into a pub. We have, you know, the supermarkets full of it. We have booze in loads of food. It's absolutely everywhere. And the truth is that we've also, probably because we're quite hefty drinkers ourselves, managed to surround ourselves with other people that drink too. Often as we've got older, that has particularly happened because as life changes and new friendships come and go, you tend to not notice the ones that have gone so much. And you find yourself spending time more and more with people that have got things in common with you. It makes us happy when we spend time with people that have common values to us, common interests to us, do similar things to us. And so it becomes easier and easier to spend more time with the people that drink a lot. And you forget and go by the wayside of the people that don't. But actually, if you go back and think through all the people that you've met in your life, it's probably the case that there are loads that don't drink very much. And either you've not taken the time to connect with them because it's easier to go with the person that always says yes to going to the pub or going to the restaurant or coming around for a drink. And the people that have disappeared slowly have actually absented us because we don't share something very in common with them. It's easier for them to phone up the people who will drive, for example, maybe. But also because they probably always think, and this is what my mates thought, that I'm not going to go out with Laura because when I go out with Laura, it always ends badly. She ends up being a bit of an idiot, and also I end up drinking more than I want to. So what you do is you end up spending time with people that drink more, and therefore it re-cements that idea that everybody drinks, and therefore to take it away from your life would be a big absent. And all that you need to remember is that you have subtly and subconsciously redesigned your life around alcohol. It's not that everybody in the world drinks. And if you want to, you can redesign your world around a different set of values that are important to you. And important to you right now is not drinking, is your health and other things. It just takes some effort and time because, of course, you did all of that effortlessly in large part. And now you need to really think through how you're going to make that switch, how you're going to disrupt what has become almost a subconscious set of actions based on a belief that everyone drinks, which isn't true at all. Okay, the other big myth is I need alcohol to relax. Well, and this is another big societal myth. We have been taught from a really young age that alcohol helps us to relax. My dad was a big drinker, and for him, well, it killed him, very big drinker. But for him, it was part of needing to relax because he was worked hard. But he had learned that from his dad, and his dad had learned that from his dad, and I learnt it from my dad, as well as a load of, social conditioning thrown in as well. So we learn through the generations, we learn from society, we learn from those around us, and it's really heavily reinforced that idea that alcohol is about relaxing. It links into the fact that alcohol is also about socialising, but you can't always say that anymore when actually a lot of your drinking is coming home from work, opening a bottle of wine to relax from after work, or once your kids are in bed, that mummy time where you get to sit down and relax. All of that is about a social reinforcing of what is considered to be a social norm around alcohol. But actually, it's not true. It helps you relax in that millisecond when you have your first drink, and then every drink after that makes relaxation less likely. But more importantly, it makes relaxation the next day less likely, and so on. Don't underestimate the fact that alcohol actually has a compound effect on you, a gradual effect on you. It's not that you can have this one drink now and it will help you relax, but you're okay, and then you press reset and you're okay again tomorrow. No, alcohol impacts on you, and the more you drink over time, the more it's affected your health, but more importantly, the more it's affected your brain. It is a drug that hugely affects your brain. It rewires your brain. It then comes to a point where every time you feel stressed, your automatic reaction is alcohol, and that's what I talked about, that subconscious thing, where you fall in all of these things subconsciously because your brain has gone, you need relaxing, alcohol. It doesn't even bother thinking about anything else. It doesn't even encourage you to think about anything else. It's just taken that social conditioning and the fact that you've been drinking over time, and it's gone alcohol, 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 alcohol. And then it becomes hard to believe that anything else is possible, but it is. There are many ways to relax, and yes, some of them may take a bit quicker than that first drink that you might have, but over time, you will also unpick that hardwiring in your brain that links anything to do with relaxation to alcohol and begins to vary your options, vary options, rather than having one, which is a default, which is alcohol. Okay, what's next? Oh, I was doing them out of order. I won't tell you that. I only drink the good stuff. Excellent myth. I love it. It's such a middle class and such a class-based myth that as long as you paid £10 for your wine and you can say which wine region it came from and you know the name of your dealer, then it's absolutely okay to drink because you're not on the white lightning. But at the end of the day, what alcohol is exactly the same, whether it's surrounded by some other ingredients or not. It is alcohol, it's ethanol. It is your body processes it like a poison, regardless of how old the grape was, how old the vineyard was, how good the grape was, whether it was rainy last season, whether it's a craft beer or whether it's a super strength lager. It doesn't matter. That component, that alcohol, is what impacts on you and your health, and is the poison that your body's processing. I don't always use the word poison, but actually ethanol, alcohol in its purest form, is alcohol, and the way your body processes it is as a poison, which is why the more you drink, the worse you get, because it just can't process it quick enough. And also over time, if you're drinking a lot very quickly, you begin to get blackouts and forget what happened the night before. that's a real impact of your body not being able to process enough of the alcohol quickly enough because you're drinking it so quickly and causing you to have blackouts. And if you ever really want to see what that cumulative effect of alcohol is, then blackouts are some of those things. So it doesn't matter what fancy wrapping it's in, it's still alcohol. If you drink lots of it, if you drink high strength, it's going to be bad for you, okay? So you know, you can talk about the fact that it's a really expensive Burgundy from wherever, but you know what? It's still doing you harm. However expensive it is, it's just costing you more to have the same amount of harm. The other one I hear a lot is, I like the taste of alcohol. I love it. It tastes lovely. It's brilliant. I couldn't possibly give it up. The problem is I love the taste. Oh, the problem is I love the taste. Oh, it's a really cool one, isn't it? So I couldn't give it up because I love the taste. It's not just that it's alcohol. It's not that it's impacting my brain. It's because I like the taste. Amazing, really, because actually we don't like alcohol. Our natural instinct with alcohol, if you ever put alcohol up to a children's nose or to my grandmother's nose, because she only has a sherry like once a year, your body goes like this. It goes, ugh. And a child will pull away from it and go, ugh. And that's because our natural bodily instinct is to reject a thing that's bad for us. But what we do get to like is the impact of alcohol, the effect it has on our brain, the way it loosens our inhibitions, the way it does immediately relax us, and all of those things. And what we've got, when people talk about liking alcohol, is because they've got used to liking it, because we can learn to like whatever we like, because we've learned to like it because we like the effects, we like the impact. And so the other thing to remember is you can learn to like other things. You can, you know, over time we've learned to like things. All right, I still don't like baked beans, but, you know, there's all sorts of tastes that I've now, as I've matured or tasted it a few times, I've liked. So you can move away from an alcoholic drink. You can learn to like alcohol-free drinks, but everything may change once you're not getting that impact on your brain that's really the thing that has taught us to like alcohol. And so your taste buds will change because now you're interested in other things, because you're not looking for the hit that alcohol gives you. So that was, I like alcohol. Wait a minute, I like the taste of alcohol. Just checking. Any questions? Hi. Cool. Right. So what's next? What's another myth that I hear a lot? A certain amount of alcohol is good for you. Anyone who watched the TV programme a couple of weeks ago where the guy said a half a bottle of wine a day is good for you. All the studies show. Well, it won't surprise you to know that for every one study that shows you that a bit of alcohol might be good for you, there are 20 studies that show something different. With any studies on anything, from chocolate to red wine through to actually quite a lot of drug trials, if they're reported in the media reports the study they want to tell you, not the one they don't. So it was really interesting that they talked about, it doesn't really give you cancer. Well, you know what? There are many different types of cancer. And it's really interesting that some people will say, look, it doesn't give you cancer, and they will pull on some cancers that aren't impacted on hugely by alcohol, when there are others that are. And Cancer Research's Million Woman study showed that for every unit of alcohol a woman drinks, she increases her chances of breast cancer. Then also, the other thing that none of these studies take into account is that we're all different and we've all got our health issues. So if you've got mental health issues, alcohol is going to be even worse for you. If you've got anxiety, ditto. If you're on some medication, there's huge amounts of medication which alcohol impacts on the effectiveness of. And if that wasn't bad enough, if you've got a hangover, you're more likely to forget to take it. Then alcohol affects your metabolism. We've already talked about that it's a brain-altering drug. So there are many ways in which alcohol impacts on the body, and selective studies don't do it justice. So I will always pull back on the fact that it's about how it makes you feel. It's about who you are. It's about the other health issues that you know you've got. And it's about whether you really believe that alcohol is contributing towards you being happy or less happy. But the other thing to say is that half a bottle of wine is actually quite a lot. I wish I'd really said to the guy on the TV the other week, you know, I think you've been drinking so much that you've forgotten what normal feels like. Because even the woman from Drinker's Voice felt that that was actually quite a lot of alcohol. So So the idea that a small bit is good for you is just ridiculous. The other thing too that Yussi once told me is that he met a scientist who said, really, what they should do is label your first drink medicine, because there probably are some relaxing impacts, and then every drink after that is poison, because that's basically what's happening. But the other thing to remember is not drinking doesn't have any negative impacts. If you want to improve your heart health, there are many other ways to do it, rather than forcing yourself to take a thimbleful of alcohol every day. And when they talk about alcohol that's good for you, they are talking about like a unit, which is a really small amount. That's like a quarter of a pint of beer. So they're only talking about very, very tiny amounts. My view is it's not even worth drinking that amount. That's so little. But also that there are other ways to improve your heart health than trying to pick out that one particular enzyme in alcohol that might be beneficial, when actually eating really good omega-3 oils will do you more harm. Eliminating alcohol from your diet is not going to kill you. You'll not have any ill effects unless you're dependent. And the idea that somehow small bits is necessary for your survival is a bit rubbish. That's all I have to say on that one. Right, number 5. I don't drink as much as other people. I like this one because by comparing ourselves with other people, we can always we do that to justify our own actions. I did it for a long time. Really funny story is that after I gave up drinking, my best friend, who I used to go drinking with a lot, turned to me and said, "Girl, I always thought as long as I wasn't drinking more than you, I was okay, and now you're not drinking." And I said to him, "But I always thought as long as I wasn't drinking more than you, I was all right." So basically, we were both using a comparison with each other to justify our drinking, and together drinking more and more and more and making ourselves iller and iller and iller. It's completely ridiculous. So it does not matter what other people drink. This is about you and how you feel in yourself. If you know it's impacting on you, no other person matters in the whole world. You are the most important person. And you do not know what other people do behind their closed doors in terms of drinking alcohol, sitting in, of an evening, drinking wine. You don't know that they're not feeling the impact the following day just because they've always seemed to have a chipper face. It's quite possible they've learned to live with those hangovers. So don't ever use the fact that other people seem to drink as much as you or more as you or about the same as you, because this isn't about anybody else. This is about you. Okay. Okay, next. Life is no fun without alcohol. This is another big societal myth, the idea that, and you can see it in all of the advertising actually, is that a fun night out is about getting drunk, is about having some alcohol in your system. And we've reinforced that by drinking through every social occasion. So our brain automatically sees social occasions as being about drinking. And the interesting thing for me now, 5 years on, is I don't associate social events with drinking in terms of my happiness. I do associate social events with drinking, because what I'm often thinking is, what am I going to drink instead? Because I want to stay there for a long enough period of time and feel that I've got something interesting to drink. So I do think about that. But I don't think, oh my God, I'm going to a party, I'm just not going to enjoy myself because I'm not drinking. That association has totally gone for me. It went after about a year and a half. I suddenly realised that I am a great conversationalist without alcohol. I can have more great conversations on an evening without alcohol. I can remember those conversations the following day. And I now go home when I want to, because fun is about actually going, having a great evening and remembering it the next day. So I've managed to unlink that social hardwiring. And I won't tell you it isn't going to be difficult in the beginning, because you will feel like you're missing something, like you're missing a limb. You'll go to a party and you'll think, oh, I don't understand. I feel awkward and uncomfortable. That's natural. It's a natural stage to go through. But you will in time get into a groove on what being social means for you. And your social life will change. But it doesn't mean you can't go to the pub. It doesn't mean you can't go to the parties. It won't mean you won't ever laugh again. It doesn't mean that you won't ever enjoy yourself. It's just that you'll be less likely to tolerate being somewhere where you're not enjoying yourself. Why should we drink in order to stay somewhere where we're not enjoying ourselves? You're more likely to go, you know what, I'm going to treat myself with consent and I'm going to go home. You're more likely to go home a bit earlier because everyone else is not making sense. That doesn't mean you're not having fun. It means that no one will notice you've gone and people aren't making sense. So this ceases to be fun for you now, but you'll have great time recollecting this party the following day. So you really do have to begin to reassess what fun means to you and recognise that society has sold us a pup. It has told us that the only way to have a great time is to have a drink. And now is the time to say no. Actually, greater society, that's not what's happening anymore. It's making me ill. And that, in a longer term, is making me really unhappy. So I'm going to stop this now and I'm going to begin to redesign what fun means for me because I'm in control of my life, not you. Okay. Oh, did I do that one? Not drinking is boring. Oh, well, it's very much the same thing. But let me just talk a little bit here about the fact that the role drinking at home has, because I talk about going out a lot, but actually most of us are drinking at home. And part of that is because we've got into a routine which says, this is the end of work day, this is the start of my time, I want to watch box sets and I want something to watch as I'm doing it. Oh my God, I used to be in that horrible cycle of when I did drink at home, watching a programme, drinking wine. And then either the wine would finish first or the programme would finish. So I'd either start a new programme and then so that I could finish the wine. And then, of course, that programme wouldn't be finished. So I'd get some more wine to go with the programme. And it would go on this horrible cycle. And then I'd get to a woozy part of the evening where I think, oh, I'm so enjoying this time with myself. I get to sit here and then I get a little bit nostalgic and I'd cry at bits of the telly and I'd go, oh, isn't it great that I'm having a good cry? Because that's probably good for de-stressing myself. All absolute rubbish. All I was doing was slowly pickling myself every evening. I never remembered half the programmes I watched anyway because I would have been too pissed by halfway through. And actually I'd failed to do anything that was nurturing or meaningful or rewarding in the whole of that time. So again, just a bit like socialising, there will come a bit where you go, whoa, just sitting in front of the TV all evening, which I've been doing, is not as enjoyable anymore. You haven't lost that, the TV's still there. You can maybe watch an hour of telly, not 4 hours of telly. That joy hasn't gone. It's just that you're unwilling to do it for the same length of time. And what you end up doing is creating more time for yourself to do things that are nurturing, that have a high value for you, rather than just watching telly. So again, you need to redefine what TV and relaxation at home means to you now. And you might be able to fit more into your evening rather than less. Get through a box set less quickly, rather than, binging it all in a whole week because it justified your drinking. Okay. Ooh. What's next? Something's gone wrong. Hang on, wait a minute. This is another one that me and Lucy heard at an event this week where a guy was sat and he said, well, you see, my daughter got married a few weeks ago and it was that champagne toast that made it special. Oh my God, the man has been brainwashed for a very long time. Does he not think that the thing that made the day special was the wedding? Are we only having weddings in order to justify our drinking? That might be quite possible. The whole of weddings might be just about not the wedding. It might be about justifying the drinking. It was an utterly bizarre comment, and Lucy had to really restrain himself to say, really? Are you sure? Just a bit of fizzy water with some ethanol on it was the thing that totally made your daughter's wedding? I don't think so. We imbue some alcohol, like champagne, with special magical qualities. But guess what? It's nothing special. It's just expensive and marketed well. And the thing that makes a wedding is spending time with people that you love, people that you like, meeting new people, maybe spending time with family you don't often spend time with, celebrating something that's special for someone else. It's not about getting trolleyed. It's not about the champagne. Champagne's just the tradition we have created. It's not the actual meaning of marriage. Oh my God. I don't even get me started on marriage, but you know what I mean? It's just like, really? Is that the only thing that you can remember from the day? And if you didn't have champagne, that day would have been terrible for you. I feel sorry for the man. That's what I do. Okay. And then we also feel that we'll be missing out on all of the fun because we're not drinking. But I want you to really go back and think about what fun really meant to you before, what it really was about alcohol that made it so much fun. Because if you forget half the evening, and if you're feeling so terrible the following day, was the amount of fun you had worth it? Is there no other way you could possibly have fun? If you're going out or doing something or having a day out, is there nothing that you can create that's fun that isn't alcohol? I think what alcohol has actually done to us is completely sapped away any creativity that we have in order to think about what fun really means and what we enjoy and what we love and doing things that we love. We've begun to accept. Actually, what we've done is we've compromised so much that we've begun to accept that just getting slightly pickled is the highlight of fun. When once upon a time running around getting wet in a water fountain was brilliant fun when we were a child, all those things. Somehow what we've done is we've just reduced our whole life to the lowest common denominator, which is alcohol fun, alcohol fun, alcohol fun, and nothing else. That's also really sad and actually not true, because when you've got energy, you can do days out, you can travel further, you can have the energy to climb trees, to go to parks, to do things that you never thought of doing. They all involve you moving your butt. But when you do them, you will find that investment of time brings you far more joy than just sitting at home and drinking wine in front of a box set and pretending that somehow this is what your life is all about. So you do have to put some work into recreating what fun is. But you can do it. I know you can, because I did it, and quite frankly, I'm like the laziest person in the world, and the fact that I can do it is just amazing. Oh, I did this one, wait a minute, because I got them out of sync. Okay, this is another one that we hear often, which is, I laugh quite a lot, because a lot of people tell me, the problem is I work in a really boozy industry. And everybody tells me that, whether they work in local government, or whether they work in finance, or whether they work anywhere, everyone tells me they work in a boozy industry. So basically what that tells me is everything about work in Britain has got alcohol surrounding it so much that we've been unable to distinguish work from play for a start, and that gosh, can you imagine all of our workplaces are boozy? That's a real cultural norm that is just very, very sad. And some people think that if they don't go for those drinks after work, they won't get promoted. And I do think that there is something about being social with your work colleagues that's really important, but that does not have to involve alcohol. You do not have to follow the pack. You may want to spend time with them. You may want to limit how you spend that time, because after 2 drinks, it's not about your promotion anymore. Everyone's just a little bit drunk. So, whether you're promoted or not isn't going to be important after the first 2 drinks. So if you can go out with your colleagues and just refrain, people won't even notice. They will even stop noticing. If you put something that looks like lager in your glass, nobody will even ask. So you don't even have to have the conversation. You don't have to limit your work options if your workplace is really that boozy. I do think it is changing though. And actually it's about quality of work that gets you, your promotion, not about whether you've managed to make the boss laugh while he's got a pint in his hand. I think those days are moving on, and we should be at the forefront of rejecting the notion that you can't get promoted unless you go to the pub with your mates after work, your work colleagues. Okay, alcohol will make me feel better or my problems disappear. This is a really, really big one, actually, because if you're feeling bad, we are taught that alcohol will make you feel better. If you're happy, we're told that alcohol will make you feel even happier. So it's no surprise that we often, the minute we feel any sense of bad, we feel we want to basically medicate with alcohol. It's a drug, so we naturally want to go to it. And if you were a regular cannabis user, you'd be hardwired to do the same with cannabis. Oh, I'm feeling bad. I do the same cycle with chocolate, but chocolate is nowhere near as bad as drinking alcohol. So don't forget that this is something that's been hardwired over generations, that's been hardwired into our cultural DNA. So you need to accept that for a start and go, stop yourself and go, hang on a minute. It's not going to make me feel better. It's just going to delay me dealing with it. Or it's going to make me feel worse for the next few days, which will definitely delay me dealing with it. For me, I am just astounded about how much my emotional intelligence has been dented by drinking. Because every time I felt bad, I reached for a bottle rather than dealing with the feelings and understanding more about myself. And it's taking me a long, long, long time to deal with the fact that all I have done for years and years and years is used alcohol to stuff those feelings away and never deal with them. And it impacts on how I behave. It impacts on how I respond to other people when they challenge me, when they sound like they're criticising me. All of that is all because I've been drinking for so long that I have not learned some of the basic skills around emotional intelligence. And so, like I said, alcohol, its impact on you is cumulative. If for 20 years you've been stuffing away all of those feelings, yep, they will come out once you change your drinking, but at least you'll learn how to deal with them. It will make you more resilient for the longer term. Which is the same about the whole reward thing, which is I deserve a drink. I feel bad, I deserve a drink. It's been a hard day at work, I deserve a drink. And again, it's really, really hardwired into our cultural DNA, this idea that alcohol is a reward. It's a reward, it's a soother, it's a consolation prize. And again, you have to really begin to unpick what reward means for you. If it's been a hard day, what do you deserve? Well, actually, you deserve to eat some good food, you deserve to relax, you deserve to have some time to yourself, you deserve to feel content and happy. And alcohol doesn't do that, ultimately. Alcohol will, over time, if you use it as your ultimate reward, will just make you feel ill and fat and bloated and lazy and miserable. It does, basically. So begin to think every time you feel you want a reward, what's the longer prize for me? I want to learn to reward myself and love myself with really much nicer things. Okay, next is I'm not normal like other drinkers. I find this a fascinating one because what is normal? I've just told you that nearly everything that we believe about alcohol is completely driven by how society treats alcohol. We've got some social hardwiring that has taught us from such a young age that alcohol is this magical substance that makes us sexy and happy and social, and we can't do loads of things without it, which means that who's the normal drinker? Well, actually, we're the normal drinkers, because we're saying, actually, this is a thing that affects our health hugely, and we've learnt that because we've drunk it in excess. But just because you're not drinking it in excess, because you don't see some people doing that, it doesn't mean that they're normal. It just means that they haven't quite got to as bad a stage as we did. And it might be that they've got other things in their life that make them happy, contented, and feel satisfied. That means that they don't need to drink quite as much as we did to cope. They may not have quite used it as a coping tool like we did. They may have hobbies and jobs that make them feel really satisfied, that allows them to limit themselves a bit more. But that's not about the alcohol. That's about their resilience and their skills in dealing with life and finding other things to deal with bad times that might allow them to cap their drinking at the right point. So they're not normal because they're drinking. They're normal because they've learned other skills to cope. They're learning to cap their drinking because they've got other things in their life that are more important to them that they don't want to lose. But otherwise, alcohol is still impacting on their body every time they drink it. They're just not hammering it like we did. I'm really pleased now that I'm a normal person that can deal with life on its own terms, that can deal with difficult times without reaching for a bottle, that has so much now that I've gained that I don't want to lose it. And I want that for you too. Okay. Wait a minute. I can't imagine life without it is another common myth that we say, and partly for some of us that are moderating or some of us that are only doing a sober sprint, the fact that saying forever seems a lot is also tied up with that idea that you can't imagine the rest of your life without it. And that's probably true if you think about it. If you've spent, 20 years drinking, then that's 20 years where alcohol has played a prominent part in your life. Where, how can you possibly envisage the next 20 years without it? Which is why, if all you want to do right now is take a sober sprint is right, because you begin to at least feel what a month, 2 months, 3 months can feel like without alcohol. I think a year's a good time, but I'm not going to push you all faster than you can go. But you need to know that life is possible without it, and that you can begin to see the end, and what that end life might be. After you've got through that stage of feeling discomfort, that you're not doing something that you're used to doing, when you can begin to see the other side, because you realise that the time it frees up allows you to do new things, that the clarity it gives you allows you to be more productive at work, that the fact it's no longer impacting on your metabolism means that you're more likely to lose weight. So it's only when you begin to feel some of those benefits do you really begin to see how life can be without it. But unless you try, you're never going to know. And all you're going to be doing is focusing on, oh my God, I can't imagine 2 months without alcohol in my life because I can't imagine not having alcohol in my life. Rather than going, I wonder what 2 months will teach me about what it will feel like without alcohol in my life. And maybe I can then begin to see how a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years will feel without it. You really, you're not going to suddenly fall off the edge of the earth by not drinking for a month. It's not going to do you any harm. But what you may gain through learning some insight about yourself will be phenomenal. And if you can do it for longer, it will be even more. I promise you. I'm suffering with a disease. I picked on this one. It sits slightly out of kilter. But I do think that the language around changing your drinking, a lot of the language and perceptions we have about changing our drinking are over 70 years old. They came in with AA and they haven't changed very much since, because we haven't known how to talk about drinking. And so part of the reason why there's a lot of stigma around drinking isn't that AA was wrong, because it was absolutely right 70 years ago. But now, though, there's a lot of phraseology and a lot of that perceived wisdom that, because it hasn't really changed, doesn't feel very right for all of us. And one of those things is about having a disease. Now, if believing that you have a disease that you'll continually have to fight every day works for you and you've gone through AA, absolutely fine. Because for me, it's about finding the thing that works for you, about the bit that sticks in your brain. In the same way as a load of people in the group will talk about alcohol as a poison, because seeing it as a poison, which it is, but talking about it in those terms, thinking about it in those terms, think about the impact of his body in those terms, makes it work for you. Some people like the Annie Grace book, some people like the Jason Vale book, some people like a totally different book. And that's because we all find the right bits in it that stick in our brain and make it work for us. But if saying you've got a disease doesn't work for you, then don't pin your future sobriety on it. I like to say that I actually don't want to drink anymore. I have all that hardwiring, all that cultural hardwiring, all of that physical hardwiring has now gone from my brain. And I don't want to waste the energy I put into the last 5 years to get here. But more importantly, I don't want to lose what I've gained. So I'm not trying to resist drink every day. I don't want to drink anymore. Occasionally, I will sit and go, oh, I wish I could just have a drink. It's normally small, intimate occasions with friends. But it's a fleeting thought. It's not something I act on. It goes away very quickly, and it's interesting to notice it. But I still don't want to drink, even if I have that thought, because it is a thought. It's not a command. So you need to find the thing that works for you. And the chances are it's not a disease you've got, but 20 years, well, actually a lifetime of cultural and social hardwiring and 20 years of physical change to your brain that you're trying to unpick. But once you get to the end of that and you begin to unravel it, that's where freedom comes. And that's when you can go, you know what? I just don't want to drink anymore. I want what I've got now. I want this joy in life that I have now. Okay. The other thing is, the other narrative around alcohol that I find really weird is when I first gave up drinking, I was in the pub. People would look at me and stare at me and go, oh, are you okay being here? Yeah, I'm okay. I don't need to jump over the bar and guzzle drink. And that's also because the narrative that's come from 70 years ago is that you need to avoid all alcohol. You need to be not in places that are associated with alcohol. And that is absolutely right for some people. If being in a certain place triggers you, and like I said, small intimate dinner parties trigger me slightly, they make me think about alcohol. But if a pub triggers you, avoid it. But you might not need to avoid it forever, because there'll be a point where you're stronger. If drinking alcohol-free drinks triggers you, don't drink it. But there may be a point in time when they may be all right for you. You know, you don't stay the same. And as you build your strength, things will change. So you may need to avoid the pub or a certain pub for a short time. You may need to move to a different pub and start a new routine and a new ritual. But you don't just have to go, right, I'm giving up drinking, I'm in lockdown, I'm never going out of the house again. That's actually quite a bad thing, because at some point you're going to have to go back into the world. Okay. I don't get hangovers is another one that I was talking to somebody about the other day. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the guy on telly, him. Yeah, well, I don't get hangovers. Mate, it's because you've been drinking so much for so long, you've forgotten what normal feels like. My dad said that he never really got hangovers, but he was always continually tired. And then he went into liver failure. So whether or not he felt the hangovers or recognised hangovers for what they are is neither here nor there. The alcohol was still impacting on his body in exactly the same way as it would have been with me when I did feel the hangovers. And actually, I really do believe he'd got used to feeling continually that tired. Just because he managed to get up at 5 in the morning to start a 5:30 a.m. shift didn't mean he didn't have a hangover. It just meant that he was very well practiced at getting up at that time to do a shift. And then he would make it up later by coming back and sleeping the rest of his hangover off and then start drinking again. So people can get into a routine with their drinking that makes them believe it's not impacting on them, but it really is. Okay. The other great myth is, without alcohol, I will be lonely. You know what? There's a big difference between being alone, of which we are often, and which is actually a very natural thing to need to be, and being lonely. And you're right, your friendships may need to change, and there's a real big challenge for you on how you're going to make and cement new friendships. I can tell you it's a lot easier to cement friendships when it's not all based around alcohol. But you may need to put some effort in. But that's okay, because you'll have time and you'll have energy. And what you need to do is build some confidence to do that. But you must also learn to take joy in time alone. And time alone where you can just sit and do stuff to regenerate and restore after spending time with people at work during the day, to enjoy your own company. It's a really important skill, because it's necessary, whether you're an extrovert or introvert, to have some time by yourself. So don't confuse the two about suddenly feeling alone when actually you need to learn how to be alone, and being lonely where you need to learn to make some new friends. Okay, I'm going to stop there because I've done 46 minutes and I could go on forever on this, but I've got a part 2 of this coming up in a couple of weeks. And as you can just hear, Yusi is just firing up his dinner. So that's his cue for telling me that I need to stop. But I've actually got like another 15 slides. So I'm not going to do them today. I will do them in the future. Just remember that Harriet is here next week at 5:30. Do book for our course if you want an afternoon of all of this with me and Yusi. And don't forget to donate if you want to, if you enjoyed the webinar. I did the workshop. A workshop course. Oh, honestly, talk about backseat webinar driver in Yusi there. Okay, I'm just going to check any more questions. Cool. It's mainly all of you saying how wonderful things are. I'm going to come back to this subject because I have got some more slides and I will do this again. There's quite a few more things that we can do. But that's it for now.